Hello, everyone. We are here to start the Model 2, and it's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Eduardo Pazinato. I'm a professor and coordinator of the Citizen Security Center of Padisma, and in 5 minutes, we are going to be live. Hello, everyone. I'm Eduardo Pazinato. I am a professor and a coordinator of the Citizen Security Center of the School of Law of Santa Maria in Brazil. It's a pleasure to be with you talking about some issues that we are trying to improve and to deal with you about governance of citizen security and justice in Latin America and Caribbean. I appreciate the questions, and let's go to the first one. The first question is from Ivan Dumani. Thank you, Ivan, for your question. And it's about, speaking of public policy of security, what have been the practical virtues or decisive elements that have put in place political leadership to achieve medium and long-term goals? This question is a very interesting question, and the initial decisive element is the political and institutional commitment of the main public authority to the citizen security and justice agenda. Since violence and crime are a multi-causal and multi-factor phenomenon, it's necessary to clearly define first how and who makes the decisions regarding the management of citizen security. Therefore, the definition of the institutional design of the public policy in question is initially important. That is, the instruments of governance made available to managers for the formulation, through the implementation, reaching the evaluation, and the monitoring with the previous definition. It is fundamental, it's important that the formulation of the projects and actions that constitute this public policy is based on evidence, on a clear and assertive diagnosis that identify the main risk factors and causalities that are the base of the production and reproduction of violence, the most vulnerable and victimized behaviors and territories, in such a way that the application, the follow-up of the public security and justice policy can face combine strategies of qualified repression of the crime, actions of control of the policy and criminal justice, with strategies of social and situational prevention of violence, focus preventive actions directed at the causalities of the practice of the different types of violence, territories, and actors involved. Finally, as shown on page 17 and following of the material of the Model 2, we must be attentive to the key actions principles that the best results can be achieved. There is coordination, integrality, transversality, co-responsibility, and targeting, with special attention to political, institutional, and social professional efforts to promote a more systemic integration and articulation between the actor and public, private, and civil society's powers overlapped. Therefore, I reinforce the importance of the creation of a chamber or instance of management and integrated governance of these public policies, and of an organ such as an observatory responsible for providing data and technical information to public managers, so that can control, prevent, and reduce, after all, violence and crimes, promoting a better performance of these public policies. I think that we have a very interesting question and a very objective and assertive answer, and you can improve your knowledge about it in our Model 2. Now from Enrique, we have the question 2. Thank you for that, Enrique. And the question 2 is about, there is a willingness of some regional body to take on the task of addressing the phenomenon of crime prevention in Latin America and Caribbean, jointly and transnationally, as is done with economic issues, for example, in order to stop being the most violent of the world. Enrique, within the framework of the United Nations system, there are several international organizations with different mandates and agendas in the field of citizen security and justice. Among of them, the Inter-American Development Bank, which has been highlighting the construction of integrated projects at the regional level in Latin America and Caribbean. This initiative of the Leaders Course for Managing management in citizen security and justice is a good example. Among our challenges for which we hope you to collaborate at the end of the course, the structuring of a Latin American network for citizen security and justice, formed by the Consortium of Higher Education Institutions, as University of Chile, Padisma in Brazil, and John Jay College in the United States, with the continued interaction with you and public institutions that you represent. I think we can deal with many other actors, but I think Inter-American Development Bank and our consortium can deal with your help, this kind of network to continue improving this subject. As now we have the question 3 from Max. Thanks for your participation, Max. And the question 3 is about, is it necessary for a country to hit bottom in its homicide crisis so that it takes security policy seriously? Max, considering that homicides are the main critical indicator of violence, my answer for you is yes. For this reason, a clear, detailed, and assertive diagnosis is fundamental, so that main types of violence to be targeted by public management, the behaviors and territories to be prioritized can be mapped. Chile, for example, has homicide rate for 2.3 per 100,000 population. In Brazil, it is higher than 30 per 1,000 inhabitants. Therefore, the question of lethal victimization should be prioritized in Brazil. In Chile, the issue of robberies and involvement of young people in criminal practice, of course, would receive priority attention. In any case, Max, we have not ignored that Latin American and Caribbean, although account for 8% of the world's population, have about 40% of the homicides practiced in the world. Therefore, there is a fundamental regional issue to be faced by all of us. Okay, Max, thanks a lot again. Now we have the question 4. Question 4 is from Gus, 1371. Thank you, Gus. Despite of the fact that in countries that have rehabilitation process, namely education, apprenticeships, and others, what would be the factor that leads to a considerable number of convicts who have already served their sentence and have gone through this rehabilitation soon or long after their reintegration in society fall back into crime and perhaps in a step more sophisticated? So this is a very difficult question, and it will have a very special connection with other things that you will deal in models about social rehabilitation. And so I think that we have this question more pertinent to be a specific model that deals with it. However, I believe that part of the problem is precisely how we think, develop, and evaluate public policy in favor of prison rehabilitation, and above all, those aimed at tertiary probation, that is, the promotion of strategies for social reintegration of those people. The first step to make this possible is the state to assume the political priority in relation to the prison and its management, because essentially it is linked to the dynamics of violence and urban crime in Latin America and Caribbean. This political priority must be materialized in investments and in a governance that considers the need for more systemic integration and articulation among the institution and public bodies of security, and justice responsible for an integral orientation that takes into account the fact that there will be no right to security without the security of other fundamental human rights, which encompass the rights of citizens under the custody of the state in prisons. It is maintaining the economic power of criminal groups that act in prisons is therefore, especially in Latin America and Caribbean, fundamental and a part of a comprehensive and integrated policy of citizen security and justice. So thanks, Gus, for your question. We have another question, another interesting question from Cristobal Caors. We have the question 5. Thanks for that, Cristobal. The question is, as the first principle of action, coordination between different actors is established, in particular among the different institutions of security and justice. The need for interagency and intersectoriality is mentioned. I wonder if it is possible to delve into these concepts and how to achieve, for example, that different agents, policy, prosecutors, courts, and others, effectively share information that they often keep with suspicion. So this is a main question, is also a main question that Cristobal shared with us. So it's a question very important. In fact, there are institutional resistance in many localities of Latin America and Caribbean in relation to the integration between the various institutions of security and justice, agents and social actors involved, as well as in relation to the exchange of data and information. Several factors explain this state of affairs. It seems to me, despite the complexity of the issue, that the best strategy is to create a chamber or integrated governance committee for citizen security and justice policy, with the participation of all the representative authorities of the organs of the area. This has been done successfully in various parts of Latin America and Caribbean. In our material on the Model 2, we bring some concrete examples. Among them was the creation of the Integrated Management Office of Canoas, a Brazilian city, or even the Pact for Life Governance Committee of the Pernambuco State, also in Brazil. The active participation of the highest public authority. Wait a minute. Okay. The active participation of the highest public authority responsible for the area is essential. In the country, the president. If the state, the governor. If the municipality, the mayor. This will bring political priority to overcome possible institution resistance, including in the exchange of data and information. In this particular point, the joint creation of a citizen security observatory, or, if you prefer, an applied research center in the area, in association, for example, with universities, civil society organization, and research institute, with the participation of public manager from the main agencies involved, can also help solve those difficulties. Bear in mind, therefore, the key relevance of political leadership in the conduct of this process. It's very important that we have the highest authority as part of this kind of leadership. This is a very important issue to overcome some of these difficulties that you share with us. So now we have a question. We still have a question from Angela Kappa. Angela Kappa comes to the question 6. Thank you, Angela, for your help. The question 6 is a question that deals with how to migrate from a criminal prosecution governance to another related to providing prevention, rehabilitation, and care service to victims. If it's possible to share with us the slide with the question 6, please. There we go. This question that Angela shared with us, it's a very important question that we have to answer, considering that the issue is not the migration from repression to prevention. We need to avoid dichotomies. We need to avoid this kind of reflection that puts in other ways repression and prevention. This is because a governance and an integrated and integral management of citizen security and justice must combine crime prosecution strategy with the provision of other public service for the social prevention of violence, especially against children, youth, and women, social rehabilitation and care with the victims and other actors involved, such as policy professionals. This is precisely our challenge. For this reason, it is important to design of the policy, when formulated, already contemplate these aspects based on a detailed diagnosis in this regard. This diagnosis will guide us in sequence the programs, projects, and actions to be developed and then monitored and evaluated. So, Angela, it's important to combine repression or control with prevention. We cannot think about citizen security and justice without this kind of reflection. It is very important to connect the things, and I think that is one of the most important challenges that we have. And now the question 7, the last one, is from Xavier Vitores. Thanks a lot, Xavier. The question is short, but the answer can be very long. The question is about, is it possible to have a good governance models under weak states? Maybe it's a better translation. How are these two concepts linked? I do not think that is possible, especially considering that the law levels of democratic states translate into a law institutional capacity for development of integrated and comprehensive policy in most sectors of public management. In these aspects include citizen security and justice. In other words, Xavier, as we described on page 10 and following of the material of our model, a vulnerable state, as in most of the region, loses its democratic governability in that it has reduced levels of confidence of the citizens in the police and other agents related to the subject, become fertile ground for the promotion of the feeling of fear and insecurity. The democratic governance of a state is therefore affected as citizens lose confidence in the policy and other security and justice agents. However, in a procedural and gradual manner, a change in the governance arrangement can induce change in the democratic way of deal about that for the state, helping to build more adequate levels of relationship between the state and civil society in that area, with the achievement of the reduction of the violence and crimes, the increase of the security feeling, and consequently of the legitimacy and the confidence of the population in the public institutions. So now on, after the last question, we have some doubts from you guys. The question here, Felipe is helping me with that. There we go. How can we promote interinstitutional coordination through the chain of citizen security and justice, going through prevention, policy control, judicialization, and reintegration? Okay, how we can promote this coordination? We can promote this coordination with some suggestions that we share with you in our material. For example, we must have a kind of instance, can be an office that we join the different agencies, the different people that deal with the citizen security and justice issues, dealing about that together and build a kind of consensus about the main goals that we are going to develop together. For that, the governance is very important. And the governance is very important with evidence. So we need to articulate these different actors to concentrate the institutional efforts to reach a reduction and a prevention of crime and violence. So we have another question about what should be the role of technology in the governance of citizen security and justice policies. Well, this question is a very interesting question because we think that technology is very important to this kind of public policies. But you have to be aware that the public policy of citizen security and justice is not the technology. The technology is a tool that helps us to deal with these issues and can be very useful if we build public policies based on evidence and articulated with a process that deal with implementation and evaluation that can consider this kind of contribution of technology. So the main question about technology is that is an important tool that can rationalizing our resource, financial resource, human resource, but we have to be aware that is not the politics. The politics is more than that, and for this is important to improve your knowledge reading our material of Model 2 that can increase, that can help you to understand better this kind of question. So that's the last question, or we have one more? That is it. Okay, so it was a pleasure. Thanks, Philip, for your helping. Thanks Astrid from BID, and I hope we can help you with your doubts and be in touch to exchange our knowledge and our experience. Thanks a lot. See you later. See you soon. Bye-bye.